Okay, sure. So, hello everyone. Sorry for the interruption, but I'll provide the context for Jasper Jones. So the context takes place similar to The White Girl it's set in the 1960s in Corrigan, a country town, as you can see from a visual there, and it tells the painful story about the coming of age of a young introvert and how he deals with and encounters situations that are normally quite beyond his state of mind. And so the theme for the most part is that it's about a mystery of the death of Eliza Wishart, a white girl, and the main suspect is Jasper Jones, which the novel is named after. And he's similar to Sissy, a Aboriginal, a half caste as they would have described in that town. And as the plot progresses, the mystery gradually unfolds of the true reason of the death of Eliza Wishart. And so this narrative is through the protagonist of Charlie Buckton, through first person point of view, and Jasper Jones is obviously the main supporting character, which has the theme of the Aboriginal discriminatory theme. And so, as well as a few of the side plots that we encounter, similar to The White Girl, it's set at a racist sort of local town where Australia was involved in a lengthy bloody conflict in the Vietnam War with the Americans, and so Australia had a significant increase in the immigrant population, and what's described in Jasper Jones is that the townfolk were very racially aware and discriminatory of any non-whites at the time. And through character similar like slang, colloquial language, and other language conventions, we can identify these racist attitudes. And there's Jeffrey Liu, which is Charlie's friend, is the other main supporting character, which I will get to later on. And so the voice, like I said, is through first person point of view, Charlie Buckton. That's from the official Jasper Jones movie adaptation. And so from this point of view, we can identify that we actually observe the social displacement of minorities in Australia through his observations, and not forgetting he is described in the novel as and how he acts as a really quite white, self-contained, 13 to 14-year-old introvert. So he's depicted as not having confidence, not having strength to support himself, and so that's really and in some instances in how he thinks and his thoughts I can relate to. And so the writer for Jasper Jones, which was Craig Silvey, did a great job at identifying the teenage perspective into this novel. And so this is a quote of how Charlie typically speaks in the story. So Jasper Jones has lost his girl. This is just after they discovered the corpse of Eliza Wishart. And so Jasper Jones has lost his girl, maybe his best friend too, his only friend. It seems so infinitely sad to me. I can't even imagine to lose someone so close, someone he had his hopes pinned on, someone he was going to escape with, start anew. And to see her right there as she was, right there where I'm sitting, what a horrible series of events this has been. But Jasper Jones has to keep that poker face while going. He has to throw that cloak over his heart. I wonder how much of Jasper's life is spent pretending he doesn't give a shit. And so from this, this shows that from this quote we can see that Charlie has really given empathy. He's provided with empathy. That's his character, and so that really just connects the reader to his thoughts and opinions. So like I said before, this is a coming of age novel, and this is Jasper Jones himself from another movie clip from the Jasper Jones official adaptation. And so Charlie, to also give a bit of context, he's also traveling through struggles about with his family life, with his parents divorcing, and he's also left out and he's considered by his peers as an introvert and an outcast, similar to Jasper. And so Jasper has asked for his help because he trusts him, because he feels that Charlie has experienced similar, discrimination. So, and this is about how these two males try to conquer their problems that they encounter. And as the novel progresses, Charlie matures considerably, learns to control his emotions and to adapt to the situation, and he learns to express his feelings and emotions to his parents, but he never tells them about the situation he's in because he knows that it won't actually help, and they're too distracted with their divorce to be worried about Charlie's problems. And so Charlie realizes this, and so he becomes more independent as the plot progresses. And through the prominent language features they use to convey Charlie's thoughts and the thoughts of other characters is a colloquial language and Australianism similar to the white girl. And this is really effective in engaging and relating to the character of Charlie and the other characters. And so the main supporting character here is Jeffrey Liu, one of Charlie's closest friends. He's depicted, he's also discriminated and is an outcast similar to Charlie, and so that's, as we assume, how they became friends. And this was also the expected murderer of Eliza Wishart, which ended up not to be true through superstitions. And so I will display to you the following quotes which demonstrate these language features. This is a dialogue piece between Charlie and Jasper. So essentially, without reading the whole quote, essentially Charlie is reflecting on Jasper and his reputation, and how he feels sympathetic, but as well towards Jasper's situation. And then through he's a thief, liar, thug, and a tyrant. He's lazy, unreliable. He's feral and an orphan, or as good as mother is dead and his father is no good. And so this also displays his book smarts as someone who has intelligence, because they portrayed him as a book smart kid, which in the end Jasper trusted him because of that as well. And this is a quote from Jasper about to Charlie, explaining with using Australianisms to indicate that he comes from a lower end of the spectrum of society, that he hasn't been well educated due to these misspellings, like bloody hell, like listen Charlie, we can't tell anyone, no way, especially to the police, because they will say it was me, straight up, understand? Like he talks as he's experienced this many times before, and he knows if he travels to the police about the corpse of Eliza Wishart, that he will be the first suspect. And so this is another Jasper Jones quote to give more characterization of for this character, basically explaining that he had to make his own luck, and that he had to trust in his faith, and he had to just travel through life being tough, and he had to try and man up as the coming of age theme progresses again, and that he has to progress through his troubles and be a man, and then from this we learn from his past that he was like a lonely, alienated and marginalized character who has to always place on a poker face, referencing to Charlie, and continue to strive forward. And so that produces him as a very strong and powerful character. And so from all of this, this creates empathy in the reader from all the characterizations, such as Jasper Jones, who we learn about his past, and how he's been mistreated by the police and the townsfolk, and Eliza Wishart, which we discovered was sexually abused by her father, which led her to commit suicide. And this was the conclusion of the story. And so from that, we really sort of all empathized with Jasper's situation, because Eliza, to her, was his girlfriend and his future lover. And so we feel frustrated and stranded by these events, affecting young women, which still occurs today. And so it's very, it's not relatable to me, but it is relatable in today's sense. And then Jeffrey Liu, who I was speaking about earlier, was a Vietnamese who was racially taunted at school on the cricket field, and we could empathize with him, because he was just trying his best. He was avoiding trouble, but trouble still arrived to him, no matter how he acted. I feel also a sense of rage of injustice, of the mistreatment, and how the police act, even though they're meant to be the guardians of these people and the townsfolk, and how they have to be unbiased. But no, and so then obviously Charlie's parents, I can't relate to this myself, but through having quite a theme of divorce, really also could relate to some viewers. And so that also had us create an atmosphere of the situation, that Charlie couldn't seek help from his parents because they were distracted from that. And we also, and quite a few of us can relate to Charlie, as that he struggles to fit in and see his place within society. So it's very relatable with with teenagers at this current point in time. And so now the final worth of the novel. Well, such as I explained before, this is and in my opinion, Jasper Jones is a great novel about two young males who eventually become friends and overcome hardships, who face injustice, racial and social exclusion, which all take place in the 1960s. And it tells, it's a painful coming of age story. It's first love, family uncertainty, and a sense of belonging in a rural community, which both Jasper and Charlie both try to achieve. And I also, from my personal experience, I found this novel, this novel intrigued me, and I found it relatable, not only because I was the same age as, or relatively the same age as Charlie, and I could share his thoughts and what he could be, and how he behaves, but as well as that I preferred this novel to The White Girl, because, compared to The White Girl, this plot had more unpredictability, plot twists which left you second guessing yourself, and to reread a few passages in the novels, and as well as that the characters and the characterization, they were described to be more detailed, and they were more pronounced, and they really gave backbone to the story, and impacted the plot heavily. And so language features which capture this atmosphere and then place you into the action. And so overall, Jasper Jones is a completely unique story that is constructed with great craftsmanship, in my opinion. And so now, finally discussing about the similarities. So the major point with I want to start off is that they're both set in the 1960s, with both the common enemy being the police and townsfolk. However, the main difference is how is the actual narration of the novel, and the racial perspectives of discrimination towards minorities. Because you see, in Jasper Jones, the protagonist Charlie observes the racist acts and discriminatory behavior portrayed by the townsfolk, as well as that he can't interact or do anything, because he's not in the center of attention. He's just merely observing it. And while in The White Girl, Odette actually experiences the racism and discrimination, and she's lived a whole lifetime of it, as well as that she's more experienced and wise than Charlie. She's she does more acts based on experience, while Charlie is more unexperienced and struggles to find and solve the problems that he encounters. While Odette confronts her oppressors, and she knows how to handle the situations more thoroughly and more concisely. And so, obviously both supporting main characters, Sissy and Jasper, were considered half-caste, and so they were considered, from a quote from the townsfolk, like half a vote essentially, and they were discriminated at school because of this. Or Jasper to a lesser extent because he was considered a real sportsman. But you see, Sissy was harassed by the local young men, which attempted to sexually abuse her, and that she was barred within her town. And so that's the main similarities that they share. And so then the attitudes in this novel, obviously, there's quite a few of them. There's obviously there's the post-colonial view that these novels share through the main characters. There's obviously the main themes of prejudice, exclusion, injustice, and harassment, and as well as both occur in the novels as sympathy, innocence, and understanding of the characters' situations. And so from this, I agree these attitudes really make up the backbone of both novels. And so, in conclusion, I believe that Jasper Jones was as great as gold, and I would recommend reading it if you guys have the time to. It was actually even produced it was actually, sorry, trying to find my words. It was so great of a book that they based a movie off it, and I recommend the book over the movie. Like the novel was more detailed and added extra bits of information which the movie couldn't portray into Charlie's character. And so that is my presentation concluded, and thank you for listening to this recording, everyone. Cheers, Catherine.